What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from the Quartering, and terrible news for CD Projekt Red. They have been hacked. There are some unreleased games that are now out there. The source code for Cyberpunk 2077, for Gwent, for Witcher 3 are all out there now and being held for ransom. Now, I will say there's a lot more data here to go over. A lot more data was exposed, financial data, things like this. While I will admit my willingness to feel bad, my empathy for CD Projekt Red very well could be at an all-time low for any company or anything. It doesn't make this okay. The corporation is eternally linked to the employees beneath it. And this will undoubtedly affect real people's livelihoods, abilities to support their family, and that sucks. It's not okay just because Cyberpunk 2077 is a gigantic mess that CD Projekt Red got hacked. The two, one does not justify the other, but ultimately, it's what happened. Late in the evening, CD Projekt Red put out a statement saying, "Yesterday we discovered that we had become the victim of a targeted cyber attack, due to which some of our internal systems have been compromised. An unidentified actor gained unauthorized access to our internal network, collected certain data that belonged to CD Projekt Capital Group, and left a ransom note, the content of which we will release to the public. Although some devices in our network have been encrypted, our backups remain intact. We have already secured our IT infrastructure and begun restoring the data. We will not give in to the demands nor negotiate with the actor, being aware that this may eventually lead to the release of the compromised data. We are taking necessary steps to mitigate the consequences of such release, in particular by approaching any parties that may be affected due to the breach." Now, I've gone through this before. Many of you know, and maybe some of you don't know, my day job is a search marketing agency. I work with clients all across the world. I have clients in Australia, I have clients in the United States, in the UK, all over the place. And I had one client last year that was hacked. And somebody put a credit card scraper, injected some SQL code to put a scraper in the checkout. This was a financially damaging thing that happened to the company. In fact, in the entire department, the e-commerce department, was let go, something I was part of just a month later. Now, they didn't say this was why, but I saw the lawsuits rolling in. Obviously, I had nothing to do with cybersecurity. I just ran their search marketing, but 7 or 8 people were all fired because of this. None of them were the ones that were responsible. The company itself had insurance, but the damage was brutal. They had to email and send physical copy mails to every one of their customers, opening themselves up to litigation. It was a disaster because of an outdated Magento e-commerce system. They continue. We are still investigating the incident. However, at the time, we can confirm that, to the best of our knowledge, the compromised systems did not contain any personal data of our players or users of our service. We have already approached the relevant authorities, including law enforcement and the president of Personal Data Protection Office, as well as our IT forensic specialists, and we will look closely to cooperate with them to fully investigate this incident. Now, this is a statement that you are legally required to make when you've been breached. And the quote-unquote hackers left a hilariously bad note. It says, "You have been epically pwned. We have dumped full copies of the source codes from your pre-forced server for Cyberpunk 2077, Witcher 3, Gwent, and the unreleased version of Witcher 3, which is probably for next-gen consoles. We've also dumped all of your documents relating to accounting, administration, legal, HR, investor relations, and more, exclamation point. Also, we have encrypted all of your servers, but we understand that you can most likely recover from backups. If we cannot come to an agreement, then your source codes will be sold or leaked online, and your documents will be sent to our contacts in gaming journalism. Your public image will go down the garbage even more, and people will see just how terrible your company functions. Investors will lose trust in your company, and stock will dive even lower. You have 48 hours to contact us. Now, I assume they had their contact information listed below this. This isn't the first time we've seen companies like this get breached and have ransom letters. Now, in the early hours of the day afterwards here, Tuesday, as the market breaks, their stock has indeed been plummeting. And that's obviously not a good thing. It's down 6% and falling. This is a stock that I own some of, and that's not a good sight. This, according to Forbes, of course, while they say they do believe customer information, while they say they believe no customer information was leaked, the potential extent of the damage is large, particularly if the hackers release the information they claim to have, which is all summed up in the following note that I thought, at least for a moment, was parody, but it's not. The note publicly posted by CDPR. Now, CDPR has emphatically said they will not meet any demands, even if that means they release the information, from confidential documents to source code of their games. The tone of the note clearly paints this action as retaliatory for the botched release of Cyberpunk 2077. I don't necessarily agree with that, Paul, which has stirred a fair amount of anger among fans, as before this, CDPR was a beloved developer who could practically do no wrong after the release of Witcher 3. Even now, I'm reading responses that range from, well, they had it coming, to could have happened to a nicer studio. Some even accuse CDPR of faking the situation to garner sympathy after the Cyberpunk launch debacle. Quote, sorry, but I cannot get on board with any of that. Oh, sorry, that's what he says. While CDPR has a trust problem as of late, I think there's a difference between hiding the performance of a game on a last-gen console and inventing an elaborate hack out of thin air to gain sympathy. Nor do I think the company, quote, deserves this, as this could potentially release sensitive information about individual employees, not to mention the time spent dealing with the fallout of this hack mess means even more delays for the actual fixes and new content that Cyberpunk needs. The full scope of the damage from this could be massive when it's all said and done, and no one benefits from it. It's a terrible situation all around. That I'd agree with. We see in Collider reporting this. It's an understatement to say that it's been a rough road for CD Projekt Red and the release of the highly anticipated and woefully handled Cyberpunk 2077. Until now, that developing story has mostly been told from the point of view of the developers of the studio and the customers who were let down by the game's many problems. But today, a new bad actor has entered the picture. An unidentified person or persons has hacked CDPR systems and is currently holding source codes to games like Cyberpunk 2077, Witcher 3, Gwent, and more for ransom. First, to be clear, the actor or actors more likely is not an actual actor from the game. Yes, oh my God, how stupid do you think your readers are? This is not good. The responses to the tweet, understandably, not exactly offering a ton of sympathy, which I can understand. There's obviously still a lot of people that are feeling bad. I feel bad for the individual employees that have nothing to do with this. I don't see anything in this letter to indicate that it's for certain some sort of retaliation for Cyberpunk. But, you know, you have Nerd City win-win. The modding community will fix Cyberpunk. You'll just have to put the clothes back on every NPC. You have a lot of people cracking jokes over Cyberpunk's hacking system. But, you know, there's a lot of people. Now, they'll paint a lot of people laughing. But, yeah, Cyberpunk is a broken mess, but that absolutely is no excuse to hack into the company. You can see, you know, all sorts of things here. Most people are sympathetic. I've seen worse glitchy AAA games than Cyberpunk, and yet nobody hacks those. I actually enjoy Cyberpunk. It's a good game aside from some glitches. $40 says it's a journo. Epically pwned, the hacker is a 9-year-old. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure who the heck wrote that, who even says pwned anymore? It's like words like cringe and beta. They're like rarely used, if at all. Even I'm not sure exactly. You know, CD Projekt Red has made some incredible games, and their developers have worked so hard over the years. For people to be laughing at them at a troubling time like this is just disappointing. I don't take any pleasure in it. It's hard to feel extremely bad for a corporation. The thing is, this isn't something that only affects the corporation. This affects every single customer, depending on if they have customer information or not. This affects investors in CD Projekt Red as their stock is dropping down. This affects everybody who purchased Cyberpunk 2077 and is eagerly waiting updates and fixes like myself. Look, I put a little tiny bit of time into the game before I set it down and said, you know what, maybe I'm going to try out something else, Grand Theft Auto 5 or something, and I'm going to give CD Projekt Red 6 months to fix this game and add content back in before I play it. Because you can never really recapture the magic of a blind playthrough, first playthrough. And so I'm fine waiting another 6 months to play. It's not the end of the world for me. But this means that I'm probably going to be waiting longer, depending on how bad and how messy this actually is. I'm sure they're not telling us everything, so be on the lookout for more forced communication from them as well. I hope you enjoyed this video. We'll talk to you again real soon.